A small German Shepherd puppy is running after an officer, barking desperately as if trying to communicate something urgent. It's clear that something is terribly wrong. The puppy is not just seeking attention. He's trying to lead the officer to something that could change everything. But what is he trying to tell them? You will shock. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Officer Claire stood at the edge of the wooded path, the air thick with tension. The day had been unusually quiet, but something about the little German Shepherd puppy darting in front of her caught her attention. The small dog was frantic, its tail wagging only for a moment before it froze, eyes wide, as if trying to tell her something. Claire crouched, her instincts kicking in, but she had no idea what the puppy was trying to communicate. She leaned down, her voice gentle but firm. "Hey boy, what's going on?" The puppy barked once, a sharp, urgent sound that echoed through the trees, and then it turned and started running ahead, looking back over its shoulder, urging her to follow. Claire hesitated for a moment, but the desperation in the puppy's eyes was impossible to ignore. "All right, I'm coming," she muttered, standing up and jogging after the little dog. The puppy darted through the underbrush, weaving between trees, and Claire quickened her pace. Confusion growing, they ran for what felt like miles until the puppy came to a sudden halt, standing still at the edge of the woods. It looked back at her, tail still, eyes locked on her face with an intensity that made Claire's stomach tighten. The puppy wasn't just leading her. It was guiding her to something important. Claire's heart raced as she followed the dog deeper into the forest. Wondering what she was about to find, Claire followed the puppy, her feet crunching against the dry leaves as they ventured further into the woods. The trees towered above, casting long shadows on the forest floor. She had no idea what she was walking into, but something about the puppy's frantic behavior told her it was urgent. The dog stopped at a small clearing, its body tense, eyes scanning the area, and then Claire saw her. Lying in the brush, her fur matted with dirt and blood, was the mother German Shepherd. Her head was low, and her body trembled with fear. Claire's heart dropped. She slowly approached, careful not to startle the injured animal. The mother looked up at her, pain and panic in her eyes, but there was something else there, a look of distress, as if the dog knew something Claire didn't. Claire crouched down, speaking softly. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." She extended her hand, but the dog shrank back, her body stiff with fear. It wasn't just the wounds that terrified her. It was the terror that lingered in her eyes, as if she had witnessed something unimaginable. The puppy circled around the injured dog, whining softly, nudging her as though trying to comfort her. Carefully, Claire reached out, gently brushing her fingers over the mother's fur. The dog flinched but didn't pull away. Claire could see the cuts and bruises across her body, deep gashes on her side, marks that couldn't have come from just a fight. The mother had been hurt deliberately, violently. It was then Claire realized, this wasn't just an attack. This was something far worse. The dog wasn't just injured. She was a witness. Claire stood up, her mind racing. Whoever had done this wasn't just hurting animals. They were hiding something bigger. And the puppy? He wasn't just trying to find help. He was leading her to the truth. That Claire's heart raced as she stood over the injured mother dog, her mind already jumping to conclusions. She radioed for backup, her voice sharp with urgency. "This is Officer Claire. I need immediate assistance. We've got an injured dog here, and there's something wrong. This wasn't just an attack." The words hung in the air, thick with the unease that had settled in her chest. Minutes later, backup arrived. Another officer, a large man named Captain Daniels, knelt down beside her, his eyes narrowing as he examined the scene. "What do we have here, Claire?" he asked, his tone businesslike but concerned. "This dog didn't just get attacked. She was hurt on purpose. And I think she's seen something, or someone, that she's terrified of." Claire's voice wavered slightly as she pointed to the dog's trembling form. Daniels nodded gravely. "Let's get her checked out, but I'll call in the forensics team. We'll need to figure out who did this." As the officers worked to secure the area, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than a simple animal attack. Her gut told her something was off. This wasn't just about the dog. Then, she heard it, a shout from one of the officers who had been combing the nearby brush. "Captain, you need to see this." Claire and Daniels rushed toward the officer's voice. There, half hidden beneath a pile of leaves, was a body. A woman's body. Her face was bruised and bloodied, but Claire's stomach dropped when she recognized the clothes. It was Sarah Green, a well-known activist in the community, someone who had been vocal about exposing corruption within the police force. The sight made Claire's blood run cold. Sarah Green had been murdered, and somehow, the mother dog had witnessed it all. Claire stood frozen, staring at the lifeless body of Sarah Green. Her mind was spinning, trying to piece together how this activist, known for her investigations into the corruption in the city, had ended up here, in the woods, brutally murdered. The officers around her murmured, exchanging theories, but nothing made sense. Claire felt her chest tighten with the weight of the discovery. What had Sarah seen before she died? And why had the mother dog been left behind, alive, but traumatized? "We need to talk to everyone who was near this area," Captain Daniels said, his voice firm. "This isn't just a random attack. Sarah was targeted." He looked at Claire, his brow furrowed in thought. "And the dog? It's not just a witness. We need to figure out who did this." Now, as the forensic team began processing the scene, Claire's partner, Officer Jameson, approached with a concerned look on his face. "Claire," he said, his voice low, "I've been going through the victim's files. She had been investigating something big. She was getting close to exposing a huge scandal within the police force." Claire's heart sank. A scandal? Could Sarah have been murdered to stop her from revealing the truth? But the twists didn't stop there. Jameson handed her a file, thick with documents. "There's more. The gun used to kill Sarah? It matches a weapon from an earlier case. A case involving one of our own." Claire flipped through the pages, her mind reeling. There it was, a name that made her blood run cold: Sergeant Hayes. A trusted member of the police force, someone who had been with the department for years. How could he be connected to this murder? Claire's stomach churned with disbelief, but the truth hit her like a freight train when Jameson added, "Hayes didn't act alone. He's been working with someone, a man with ties to organized crime. They've been covering their tracks for months." Claire's eyes narrowed. "We've got a mole in the force," she said, her voice steady but filled with determination. "And they've been using Sarah Green's investigation to hide the truth." The pieces of the puzzle were coming together, but the deeper they dug, the more dangerous it became. The officers were no longer just searching for a murderer. They were chasing shadows within their own ranks. The air in the precinct was thick with tension. Claire stood beside Captain Daniels and Officer Jameson, the weight of their discovery settling heavily on their shoulders. Sergeant Hayes was involved, and he wasn't acting alone. The corrupt officer had ties to a much larger criminal network, and Sarah Green's investigation had been the key to exposing it all. But now, their every move felt watched, every step forward fraught with danger. "We can't just sit on this," Claire said, her voice sharp with urgency. "If Hayes is involved, he's dangerous. We need to move fast before he covers his tracks completely." Jameson nodded. "I've got contacts in internal affairs. I'll reach out, get the ball rolling. But we have to be careful. If Hayes suspects we're onto him, he'll go underground. Fast." Meanwhile, the little puppy, still at Claire's side, looked up at her with its bright eyes. It had been following her without hesitation, its every move in sync with her own. Claire wasn't sure if the dog understood the gravity of the situation, but its instinctive loyalty felt like a beacon in the storm. The puppy's presence seemed to offer a strange comfort amidst the growing danger. With each step Claire took, the dog trotted beside her, its eyes darting ahead as if alert to something Claire couldn't see. It had been the puppy that had led her to the mother dog, and now it seemed to be guiding her again. Claire followed the dog, whose nose twitched as it sniffed at the ground. It darted ahead, barking excitedly, leading Claire to a hidden entrance at the back of an abandoned warehouse. The puppy stopped at the door, sniffing more intently, as though confirming that something was inside. "Stay alert," Claire whispered to Jameson as he joined her. He nodded, his hand tightening around the handle of his gun. They were getting closer. The walls around them seemed to close in as they stepped into the darkened warehouse, the stench of rot hanging in the air. Every instinct Claire had told her that whatever they found here would change everything. The warehouse was eerily silent, save for the faint scraping of metal on concrete as Claire and Jameson moved cautiously through the shadows. The puppy, now unusually still, led the way with an unshakable determination. Claire's heart pounded in her chest. They were close. Every step brought them nearer to the truth, and to the killer who had already taken so much from them. The puppy stopped at a rusted door, its small body tense. Claire motioned to Jameson, and with one swift motion, they pushed the door open. The dim light inside revealed a figure standing at a workbench, his back to them. Sergeant Hayes, the man who had been trusted by the very department he had betrayed. Hands up. Don't move. Claire's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. Hayes froze, his eyes widening as he slowly turned to face them. The smug expression he'd worn earlier was gone, replaced by cold calculation. I should have known it was you, Claire continued, her voice unwavering despite the adrenaline rushing through her veins. You've been hiding behind this badge long enough. But you won't escape justice. Hayes' lips curled into a sneer. You don't know what you're dealing with, he hissed, stepping back, his hand reaching for a hidden weapon. But before he could make a move, Jameson had already drawn his gun and aimed it at Hayes' chest. You're done, Jameson said, his voice steady. You're not getting away with this. Not after what you did to Sarah and to that poor little girl. The room was still for a moment. Then, Claire's eyes darted to the puppy, who was standing just inside the doorway, watching intently. In that instant, the small dog seemed to understand the gravity of what had just unfolded. It was over. Hayes, the man who had been aiding criminals from the inside, was finally going to pay for his crimes. But just as Hayes opened his mouth to speak again, the officers moved in, securing his hands behind his back. The puppy let out a low, satisfied growl, almost as if approving of their swift action. Claire exhaled, feeling the weight of the moment. This isn't just about justice for Sarah or the others, she muttered, more to herself than anyone else. This is for that little girl whose life was taken too soon. Hayes didn't speak again, his face now drained of arrogance. The realization of his imminent capture and the consequences of his actions seemed to sink in. As the officers took Hayes into custody, Claire glanced down at the puppy. The little German shepherd had stayed by her side through it all, guiding them toward the truth when no one else could. Without him, they might never have cracked the case. As the officers escorted Sergeant Hayes away, Claire stood for a moment in the silence of the warehouse, the weight of the last few hours settling over her. It was over. The killer had been caught, the conspiracy exposed, and justice had been served. But none of it would have been possible without the little German shepherd puppy who had been her unexpected partner in this case. Claire looked down at the puppy, who was still sitting quietly at her feet, his eyes watching her with a quiet intensity. The puppy's small form seemed unassuming, but he had been the key to unlocking the mystery, leading them step by step, never once faltering in his loyalty and instinct. Without him, the trail might have gone cold, and the truth might have stayed hidden. Good boy, Claire whispered, reaching down to ruffle his fur. The puppy's tail wagged slowly, his eyes softening with what looked like gratitude. He had done more than guide them to a killer. He had saved lives, including that of a 3-year-old girl whose murder would have remained unsolved. As the puppy leaned against her leg, Claire couldn't help but smile. You're my hero, she said softly, a lump in her throat. He had proven that even the smallest of creatures could make the biggest difference. The puppy let out a soft bark, as if acknowledging the praise, before bounding off toward the exit, ready for the next adventure. Claire followed, her heart lighter than it had been in days. Today, a puppy had shown the world that sometimes loyalty, instinct, and a little bit of courage could change everything. As the story comes to a close, Claire watched the puppy play in the yard, a small but heroic figure in her life. It had been a long, exhausting journey, but in the end, justice had prevailed. The puppy had done what no one else could. He had led them to the truth, saved lives, and exposed a web of corruption that had been lurking within their own ranks. If you were moved by this incredible tale of loyalty, bravery, and justice, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more heartwarming and unbelievable stories. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new video. And remember, sometimes the smallest heroes make the biggest impact.